गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गनर शॉट। गनर शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। Today we are going to talk of military renaissance in Germany and what does India do about it. And to educate us on this important topic, we have with us Ambassador Gurjit Singh. Sir, good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot. It's been a long time since you've been on Gunner Shot. A lot of things have happened, and I'm very happy that you are here.
Thank you.
Let me put it across to everyone why I requested Ambassador Gurjit Singh to talk to us. As you all know, a lot of things are happening in the world. Very interesting things are happening. Ever since Trump has come, he's pushed NATO and his allies to spend more on defense. He's taken a step back. He started looking inwards. America first and all that. While he has professed that he doesn't want to shape the world and all, he's got involved in all the wars in some form or the other. There's no trust. The alliance, the NATO alliance, is in tatters. The Eastern Alliance or his Eastern Alliance partners are also gone into a state of not being able to put their complete trust in America. So there is an inward-looking America. There is a problem in China. The Russia-Ukraine war is going on with no end. Now we've got another war on our doorstep, Iran-Iraq, which threatens nuclear, issues coming out. Then China is also, involved in the Philippines and Taiwan and Japan. India and Pakistan, two nuclear countries, have gone into a spat, and it is not finished. It is in this context that Mr. Trump has, said that all NATO members have to invest more into defense. There's a new government in Germany. Germany feels that it is threatened by Russia, and it has to arm itself. So there is a remilitarization. I wouldn't say remilitarization, definitely rearmament of Germany on the cards. Will it lead to remilitarization is a question. There is also a similar trend line going in Japan. Right. When all this is happening, what I'd like to put across is it's going back in time. And I'll show you. This is what someone had written. It is Brzezinski who had written this. If the US retreats or becomes inward looking, the world would slip into chaos. Multiple regional powers might compete violently, echoing the unstable world before World War I. US is retreating to a large extent, and it is becoming inward looking. So are we looking at a world of chaos where there's no handle on top to guide the whole lot? This is a question. Then Brzezinski has also written that these are the countries who will be the major geostrategic players. I mean, it's no brainer that all these are there. But in this, Germany and Japan till recently were supposed to have adopted the path of peace and things like that. Their rearmament and relook at the whole world has got major connotations. At the same time, it gives tremendous opportunities for India. Right? In a world where there's no central, handle pushing the whole story forward, and India has its opportunities. And it is said Eurasia is the world's axial supercontinent. A power that dominated Eurasia would exercise decisive influence over the world's three most economically productive regions: West Asia, Western Europe, and East Asia, and the third is missed out. But the fact is, if Germany remilitarizes and there's a reawakening of its own self-identity, which existed before World War II, then you're looking at the Eurasian game changing, and that has different connotations altogether. Right? This is the preamble which I wanted to put across to everyone. This is the setting in which I see German resurgence or military renaissance coming up. Right now, why did I call Ambassador Gurjit Singh? Two reasons. One, he's written two excellent articles, one in Eurasian Times and one in Indian Express about Germany, its renaissance, and all that. The second, he's been our ambassador to Germany. He knows Germany more than many. And this is not the first time we are interacting on West Germany or Germany. This is the second time we've spoken earlier, and that was during their elections, right? And he gave us very clearly how things will happen. And at that time, he said it is only in around June, July, things will start panning out. And it is June, and things are panning out. In the process, from the election time to now, a lot of things have changed. And we need to keep our pulse on this important development which is happening in Germany. Will it happen in the next 2, 3 years? No. But will it happen in the next 5 years? The things will be felt. Germany, as it rearms itself, will exert its influence. And this is what we have to look out for and latch on to it, if I may say, for many reasons. Right. I think I've spent a lot of time. I must give the good ambassador enough time to put across his knowledge of Germany and what's happening there to all of us. So, over to you.
Thank you so much, General Shankar. It's always a pleasure to be on your show. Yes, it's been a while, but I thought in that much period we would have a return to peace. But in fact, we are going into more wars than ever before in this century. So it is not, when wars come, diplomats feel unhappy because diplomacy dies. So I think there is some element of sadness within me. So today, let me try and explain from my point of view how Germany is evolving at present. As you rightly said, Germany's post-World War II identity was always one of pacifism, diplomacy, and an aversion to military assertiveness. We have to realize that German defense forces are together smaller than the BSF. And that gives you a perspective. Now, this changed dramatically in 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine and jolted Berlin into a strategic reset. The Minsk process, which Germany and France had with Ukraine and Russia, came crashing down. And NATO became the leader of the anti-Russian assault rather than the European Union. Now, within NATO, Germany counts for less. In the EU, it counts for more. Chancellor Scholz, who was leading Germany at that time, called it the Zeitenwende, a turning point, and announcing that Germany would commit 2% of its GDP to defense spending and create a 100 billion euro special fund to modernize the Bundeswehr, the German armed forces. That marked a historic departure from decades of military restraint. In 2025, there's a new chancellor, Friedrich Merz, who has doubled down on this trajectory. In his first address to the Bundestag, Merz vowed to transform the Bundeswehr into what he called the strongest conventional army in Europe. He coupled this with sweeping economic recovery passage and a tough new migration policy. Germany and Europe must become so strong together that we never have to use our weapons, he said. To realize this vision, Merz pledged unlimited financial backing for the military and suggested that Germany would shoulder greater responsibility within NATO and the European Union. Here I want to explain a nuance of German politics. You know, the merged-led coalition has SPD as a junior partner, but between themselves, they cannot raise a two-thirds majority in parliament because the right wing Alternative for Democracy in Germany, the AfD,
AFD.
has a large number of seats this time, and even the seats held by the left party, the left party, have also increased. And they are both anti-war parties, though from different sides of the spectrum. Now, had Merz tried to set up the special fund for defense, now I doubt he could have won parliamentary approval. So they used a subterfuge. Since SPD was going to be their partner and was already running the previous coalition and the Bundestag had not been dissolved, they actually brought these bills into the previous Bundestag, even though the new election had been conducted. In that Bundestag, the AfD and the D-Link were very small, and it was SPD, Greens, and the FDP, Free Democrats, who were together, and the CDU had a fair amount of seats. So they actually passed these two special packages, about $500 million, I think, for defense and for similar for uh, $500 billion for infrastructure. Now, the new parliament cannot undo this. So essentially, there is a constitutional break on how much debt a government can entail, which I think is 2%. So by passing those bills, they have removed defense and infrastructure from the imposition of the debt break. And that, I think, is a very critical success for Merz before he took on the new parliament. Defense Minister Boris Pistorius, he was the most popular politician in the previous government from the SPD, and he continues to be defense minister, has echoed this ambition, suggesting a long-term goal of raising defense spending to as much as 5% of GDP. A
Oh, that's a
dramatic,
big amount.
considering that currently they are at hardly 1.9%. The Merz-led coalition has already introduced Zeitenwende Plus, which I have explained to you. Then, therefore, defense spending beyond 1% of GDP would be exempt from the constitutionally enshrined debt break. The legal framework is in place. The ambition is clear. But will German public support hold? That is an important question. Initially, it seemed so. In 2022, the emotional shock of war in Europe led to broad support for increased military expenditure. Nearly 70% of Germans backed the move of Zeitenwende, which was quite remarkable in a country so wary of militarism. The special fund of 100 billion, which Scholz had introduced, enabled Germany to order F-35 fighter jets, procure Israel's Arrow 3 missile defense system, invest in cyber capabilities, and digitize command operations. For many, this was not militarism, but a belated correction of decades of underinvestment. But that 100 billion fund actually went into buying and procuring foreign goods like the F-35 or the Israeli arrows. It did not really support German defense industry, whereas the new fund is now supporting more German industry. Now, where public opinion is concerned, by 2025, that enthusiasm had tapered. A poll by the Korber Stiftung from November 2024 found that while 73% of Germans favored greater investment in European security, 58% opposed Germany playing a leading role if the US retreated from global affairs. Currently, around 55% only support strengthening national defense. Support for the far right AfD which advocates a more restrained defense posture, has grown. Cracks are appearing in the national consensus. Several fault lines now threaten the sustainability of Germany's defense transformation. Therefore, what Merz did by recalling the old Bundestag and passing his bills will hold him in good stead. What are the reasons why this is happening? First, economic concerns are mounting. Germany, as an economic power, is not doing well. Inflation, stagnation, budget constraints have sharpened debates over fiscal priorities. Critics ask whether Germany can afford to spend billions on tanks and jets while underfunding schools, housing, and its energy transition. With austerity on the horizon, Germans are being forced to choose between security and social services. Many want both, but doubt whether both are affordable. The second important point is that implementation has been much slower than anticipated. Bureaucratic inertia, procurement delays, and supply chain disruptions have hampered progress. The Bundeswehr remains under equipped in key areas. Reports of soldiers lacking basic gear persist, and many major systems are still years from deployment. If voters perceive the Zeitenwende as mostly talk with little delivery, support will wane further. Here we need to note that when Germany generously provided more defense items to Ukraine and to Poland and other countries like Lithuania, they depleted their own reserves. So today, the German Bundeswehr is underprepared, and the ability of German industry to produce tanks or armored personnel carriers or missiles is actually very, very low. Which brings us to the third point. Among the German people, Germany's pacifist tradition remains strong. On the political left and among younger voters, skepticism towards militarization is pronounced. Some fear entanglement in foreign wars. Others are uneasy with NATO's expanding mission. In Eastern Germany, with its historic links to Russia and persistent economic grievances, alignment with the West is more contested. And please remember that it is in the five German states of East Germany that the AfD and the left
Yeah.
parties their maximum support. The political implications are complicated. Defense expansion finds strongest support among the CDU and the Christian Socialist Union, the ally of the CDU. They are from Bavaria. The SPD is also reasonably strong. The Greens, though supportive of Ukraine, are divided between their anti war roots and current geopolitical realities. The Free Democrats support spending but worry about fiscal discipline. And the D-Link and the AfD oppose rearmament from opposite ideological perspectives. Parliamentary arithmetic could thus prove tricky despite constitutional backing for these special funds. One challenge remains. Any defense procurement of a single 25 million euro bill will still require approval from the Bundestag Budget Committee. This post-war safeguard against militarism makes defense planning highly sensitive to shifting coalitions, public opinion, and political bargaining. Where does this leave Germany's military transformation? There is no doubt that Zeitenwende and Zeitenwende Plus are part of a new era. For the first time since German reunification, Germany is taking its defense obligations seriously. NATO allies, especially in Eastern Europe, welcome this shift. Even the US, long frustrated by Germany's military hesitancy, acknowledged the change during Merz's recent visit to Washington on June 6, with Trump cautiously commending the new direction. However, we must remember that Merz is credited with having passed the Trump test when he went to Washington. He did not get a firing. He did not get rapped on the knuckles. He got praise for his defense spending, even though the US and Germany don't have the identical geopolitical, but they found common ground on military spending. In a characteristically provocative aside, Trump mused aloud whether Germany's increased defense investment were perhaps too successful. I think that's a good thing, at least to a certain point, he said. There will be a point when I will say, please don't arm anymore. What was once a point of contention is now a point of pride. For the first time since reunification, Germany's defense policy is being watched not for its hesitation but for its ambition. Now, the transformation requires more than budgets and weapons. It needs a cultural shift. Germany must forge a new strategic consensus that military readiness is a safeguard for peace, not a threat to it. This demands political leadership, public dialogue, and tangible improvements in the Bundeswehr's capabilities. Critics who argue that defense spending diverts resources from social needs often ignore a fundamental truth. Without security, prosperity cannot be sustained. Germany's export driven economy depends on a stable global order, one now threatened by Russian aggression, cyber warfare, terrorism, and authoritarianism. The days of complacency are over, and Germany, though a supporter of Israel, finds itself challenged by Israel's geopolitical actions. At the same time, defense advocates tread carefully. German strategic culture remains cautious. Any sense that the Bundeswehr is being rebuilt for adventurism or that civil liberties are being eroded in the name of security could provoke backlash. Transparency, restraint, and adherence to democratic norms are very essential in Germany. Germany's real test lies not just in spending more, but in spending wisely. That means delivering visible outcomes, enhanced operational readiness, better troop morale, and credible deterrence. It also means preserving democratic values while projecting stability. The Zeitenwende Plus is not a singular moment, but a sustained commitment. Germany must internalize that its global role has changed, not just because of Ukraine, but because the geopolitical environment demands it. A well equipped, principled Germany can be a pillar of European security, but only if its leaders bring the public with them, not only in moments of crisis, but through steady, transparent governance. In the end, Germany's awakening will not be measured by euros spent, but by what it defends and how. Now, before concluding, I want to say that in the past, when before Brexit, Germany was the lead economic power, and France and Britain were the lead strategic powers. And the three of them together would normally set EU policy for the economy and its foreign policy. But with Britain having left, it is the Franco German alliance which now must look at what is happening. But one consequence of the Trump impact is that Britain has come back closer to the EU in defense matters. So there is greater coordination between Prime Minister Stammer, President Macron, and Chancellor Merz. And in this, we must bring in Poland because Merz has said he will work closely with the Weimar Triangle, which is France, Germany, and Poland. And on the first day in office, he went to Poland and to France. So I think these four countries for European security will play an important role, and they will provide the bulwark in case the US becomes too isolated, in which case the Europeans will have to shoulder their own responsibility. Thank you.
Oh, thanks a lot, sir. I thought that was very nice that you played out everything and painted the whole picture as Germany is transforming and going through its Zeitenwende. The question is, I mean, there's a poster also I'll put across to you. It is well recognized today. Germany is pacifist in nature. People probably don't want to, militarize. They don't want to go back to their, times of the Second World War. Understandable. But don't you think once a system rearms itself and starts facing the new geopolitical realities, and if from a Eurocentric view only, you look at America, which is stepping back, because the trend once it starts is difficult to reverse. With Russia and its outlook the way it is, and to the south of Europe, Asia, and the Middle East being in turmoil, uh, it'll Germany doesn't have a choice but to change. Why? Last time when we spoke, or maybe a year back, the German outlook was far different. They were not even prepared to spend money on their defenses. Today, we are talking of something different. And if this progression takes place, where do you think Germany will head? And I feel that, I mean, this is my view. It might not be felt today, but another 4 5 years later, if things continue the way it is, and if and Trump continues the way what he's doing, Germany has no choice but to militarize. I want your views on that.
I agree with you. Germany presently has no choice to other than to militarize. But it is not only for geostrategic reasons.
For
So
its own reasons.
Germany needs its economy to pick up. It can't just depend on the Chinese market or exports from China. So one way is to build its own military industrial complex. And in the article that you mentioned, in the other article, I have mentioned some of the defense, electronic and space and digital companies which are being acquired, strengthened, and even companies like Rheinmetall, which produces tanks and things, they are being given new orders, and they are trying to come up. So the German version of the military industrial complex is required to support Zeitenwende Plus. As I mentioned, it was not supporting Zeitenwende, the first 100 billion. But the next 500 billion is going to go into building a German military industrial complex, which will supply not only Germany, but perhaps along with France, Britain, and other suppliers in Europe, create a European alternative and a more standardized European defense force, including the European members of NATO. That is possible. Already you see that the Soviet era equipment of Eastern Europe was all given to Ukraine, and that is to be replaced by German French equipment, which will standardize these armies more. The second thing was Merz could not pass only a new bill for Zeitenwende Plus. He had to have a similar commitment of $500 billion for building German infrastructure, which will also boost the economy and give German people something to look forward to in real terms. So I think he has played that pretty well. The German people look at that aspect, that the infrastructure Zeitenwende. When is that happening? When will the trains be better? When will the roads be better? When the power will be better and more dependable? And where will our social welfare, housing, schools, health systems, how will that get better? So that is where the government is going to focus. But at the same time, it's created the opening for a larger defense industrial complex, which will strengthen its strategic capacity, but also provide industrial capacity building at home.
Yeah, I think you put it on well, and there's no doubt that Germany will have to put up its own defense industrial complex, and that itself will become a driver of its own economy, and assist Zetan one day. It is apart from the fact that their defense will become stronger. Now here, the way I look at it, Germany faces a problem, and that problem is of capacity. What capacity am I talking of? I'm talking of two capacities. One, it doesn't have any more capacity to make all those weapon systems it needs for itself. It has to depend on imports, but I don't think, knowing the German mind, they will go in for imports beyond the point. They will have to start doing things on their own. The second issue, which the problem with Germany faces, is demography. It
Yes.
simply doesn't have the demography, nor does it have the skill sets, and this is common to Europe as a whole, to re-establish a defense industrial complex the way it, Europe used to have. In fact, Germany itself used to have. I mean, if I look back, we were at one point of time looking at German submarines, and we're looking at things like fighters and all that, which today you're not looking at. You're looking at tanks, Rheinmetall, and all that. Today, no one looks at all these, and many of their capacities have, degraded. So, in this context, is there a scope for India and Germany to cooperate? And I'll put it in from an Indian perspective. What we see in India is that we can't rely on USA for technology. I mean, it's not going to come. At this point of time, our options for technology are limited to France, Russia, Israel, and to some extent maybe Japan. Not much. And we don't have many other, of course, your own technology. So in this context, a military renaissance in Germany, and what are requirement of technology, do you see a natural fit there? Do you see scope, and do you see that we are working towards it? Especially considering the fact that our external affairs minister recently visited Germany, and he had an interaction with their leadership. I'm looking at it from an Indian point of view, sir. I'd like your views on that, and your thoughts on that. That's
Very
important for us.
a very valid question. But let me say, yes, there is complementarity, but I don't think the time has come. And why has the time not come? Is because German industry does not have a strategic view of the world. It is just working as industry. It is not working like a military industrial complex. It is not following the German government strategic goals. In fact, German government has no strategic goals. So if you say that we want to buy German submarines, do you know that for the ThyssenKrupp bid for the API 75 project,
Yeah.
it's the first time the German government ever showed their hand and told us, please, can you consider this submarine? Never before in history had they even done that. And when I went to Germany, they said, please understand what a big step this is for us to tell you to please consider our submarine. Now, the same thing happens when after Galwan we wanted Zorawar tank engines. I think we tried to get them
MPV.
from and their companies did not have a strategic view. Strategic view means they should have said, this is a country which is friendly to us, which is fighting China. Come what may, I'll give this engine. That attitude is not there in German industry yet because Zetan One Day Plus has not yet built a strategic outlook to the Indo-Pacific except to anti-Russia. So that is the German strategic problem, that they are only thinking of Russia and Eurasia. They are not looking at the Indo-Pacific as a strategic theater. Indo-Pacific outlook of Germany is still a trade expansion exercise. Until that starts matching, or let us say if India starts buying the German submarine, then suddenly German industry wakes up that there's a market here, then it will happen. But of the many new things that Germany is going to invest in, particularly in digital and electronics, which have all got defense use, I think there is much that India and Germany can do, uh, and certainly collaborate on drone technology, cyber technologies, and things like that. Germany has never been in the lead of the main strategic triad of space, nuclear, and weaponry with India, like France has been. But unlike France, Germany has been a major economic partner in terms of investment, trade, and ODA, which France is not. So today we have to see whether the gusto of French companies for providing, equipment to India is matched by German companies, and that will help them to industrialize and grow faster because India is a good market for them.
What do you think? Do we? I mean, the potential is there. How do you look at it? Will it this potential turn into a kinetic, in your opinion, in your assessment? Because the winds are changing all over,
You
and the
know,
change is there.
the change in German government is clear. Even Chancellor Scholz did many things despite the Ukraine crisis and a divergent view from India. He launched a 10 billion euro sustainability partnership. So the German government and the Indian government are on the same page that we need to do something together strategically in this world. But German industry is a generation behind. They don't even agree that China is a systemic rival. They keep wanting to invest in China, get more profit because they are not doing well at home. And without Chinese profits of their subsidiaries, despite all the problems in China, they will fail. So you need a rethinking on the part of German industry. And they need
Right.
to start developing a industrial complex of defense, which could then link up India.
Yeah, I agree with you, sir. To a large extent, it appears that as if Germany has to be pulled out of a morass which it is in. And does India have the bandwidth to do that? One, and does India want to do it? Because I think in a area where in a era of technology denial, the Germans are a good source of technology, and maybe we have to do something to get them thinking differently. How do you think we should go about that?
When I was in Germany, I commissioned a study essentially to prove that in the decade from 2005 to 2015, there was actually more Indian investment in Germany than the other way around, which when I said
Okay.
nobody believed, but we showed it through a survey. Now, Indian companies, a lot of them invest in Germany for the technology. Now, if Chinese companies also came for robotics and all that till they were shut out. Now, Indian companies will not be shut out. But Indian companies today are ready to co-invest with fledgling German companies who are coming into the defense sector. I think that will set a new example of how India and Germany can cooperate. But overall, we have to remember that even a close defense partner like France is very reluctant to part with technology. They did not want the Rafale to be manufactured by HAL. They did not want to give the guarantees. Now they are saying they will give Sofran technology for Indian helicopters. Let's see. So it is not that only the United States, even our good buddy France, which is very slow to provide technology. So what is the solution? Go and buy it. Encourage Indian industry to invest in Germany in those companies which are going to go into defense industry. And this is not big investment because most of German industry is actually the Mittelstand, which are small, medium-sized, family-owned companies which develop new technologies. We should join them.
So we have a huge. It's almost like, I mean, the way I look at it, it's like a greenfield operation. If you invest
Yes.
today, you will reap tomorrow.
And we have a very large student population in Germany now, over 50,000. All of them are trained in German technology mostly. We should Start using them by employing them in our new companies which we invest in, and create a germ. After all, they are going to all be Germans, you know. So use them as our base to build these bridges with India, not only for defense, even for
For
other
everything
manufacturing.
else. No, for everything else.
Economic bridge between economic and technology bridge between India and Germany.
Do you see the government of India undertaking this step, or is there a consciousness in our own government that we need to do this?
I think, I don't know how the government thinks, but I believe that we are watching how Zayton One Day Plus leads to defense industrialization. But what I am saying, what Indian industry should be encouraged to go and look for opportunities over there.
Yeah, I agree with you. So it's not only defense, even like you said, you need to have a technology bridge and an economic bridge. Automatically things will start falling in place. And as our economy starts growing, we also have to go out. You can't just depend on an inward looking economy. You need to have an outward looking economy. And Europe is not, Europe is still a relatively blind spot for our industry.
So the
We all
Germans,
run.
the Germans have not come to India in a big way to invest. But let's say this, we have new defense industrial corridors. Indian companies know how to operate them. We should go to German companies who are coming into the defense industry and say the cost of production in India is much more. The cost, the much less, and the cost of R&D in India is much less. So let us collaborate and develop your technology and prowess as a joint venture with India, where part of the manufacturing and research and development should be in the Indian defense corridors.
Right. Thanks a lot, sir. I think we've had a meaningful discussion and a clear, concise discussion on what we should do with Germany. It is my firm belief that in the absence of, you know, routes which are, traditional routes of going to America, going to France, and even going to Japan, hitting roadblocks, and we've been hitting roadblocks quite often. We have to go towards Germany because Germany gives you an opening, and that is it's a greenfield thing to a large extent. We need to cash in on it. Simultaneously, I also feel that we need to relook at Japan in a different manner, and
Yeah.
especially post Op Sindoor. Many of our own indigenous things have proven themselves in war very well, and it gives us a leverage of its own variety. So I think we need to do a lot more. I thank you again for this wonderful exposition. Can I take a few questions if you don't mind?
Certainly, certainly.
Okay. Uh, right. He says, excellent suggestion by Ambassador Singh. I would advocate the same. Rope in German technology industry to innovate and produce here. They will exponentially rise our innovation engines and talent pool. I agree with you. Okay. The next question, sir, is Op Sindoor Phase 1 clearly demonstrated the superiority of our weapons, platforms, and systems. Our entry into the global defense marketplace is assured. Caution is advised. Your views. I'll not put it global defense marketplace. How can this be leveraged with Germany is a question which I think you could answer, sir.
Yes, I think there are certain successful operations of Indian technology and its uh, derivative during Op clearly seen. So I think if we expand them, improve them with the help of German joint ventures, that provides a base to start this process that we have been discussing.
Right. Sir, currently Germany is anti-nuclear and has closed all nuclear power plants. They have ceded their scientific space to China and Far East long back. How do you expect them to rebuild now? That's a
That
challenge, but I'll leave you to answer it.
is very strange. When the Greens were in government, they would not allow nuclear plant to open, but they reopened coal plants. Makes no sense whatsoever. Coal plants in Germany should not be reopened, but they can build clean nuclear reactors and bring them, because with the curtailment of Russian gas supplies, the energy costs in Germany have really hit the German people and German industry very hard. So they need a much more cost effective energy source. And it can't be anything better than nuclear power for the moment. So they should go into developing nuclear reactors. This is not the same thing as building nuclear weapons. This is like India of 1974, before 1998. You can be having nuclear reactors, but without going into being a weapons power.
Yeah, I'll put two comments up. So, having been responsible for hardware and technology purchases for my production house, Germany and Japan are leaders in this domain. Their engineers are way more reliable and dependable than US or UK. And as a follow-up, this thing we should do non-military alliances with engines, machinery that can be integrated into our military. So, your views on this? I think this is an important thing they're making.
I
Point being made.
agree with both the points. In fact, this point, what you say is do non-military. Yes, if you begin with non-lethal technologies, I think there's a greater chance of industrialization in Germany and link up with Indian industry. So these are what you call non-military, non-lethal, dual use, whatever you want to call it. Ultimately, all electronics is dual use. No? So we should work on that. And we also need to build critical mineral supply chains. That is again something Germany lags behind. Germany lags behind on green hydrogen. So it is not that you only need to build defense related stuff. There's plenty of stuff that we can do together. And once we do that together, it will raise enough confidence that you could then have defense related industrial production as well.
Yeah. How should Germany address the demographic changes which it is now facing because of Angela Merkel? Leave Angela Merkel out of it because demographic changes, which is there in Germany and in Europe, is almost a common phenomenon. So, your views on this? Do you think they can ever, you know, circumvent their issues, or they have to make partnerships with uh, countries like India where demography is not an issue, or a
So
complementarity with India?
there are two kinds of legal immigrants in Germany. One is the Turks who came after World War II, essentially to fulfill an economic requirement. And they have stayed and they become Germans. Today, there are a large number of refugees and illegal immigrants. Two categories: refugees who were let in, and illegal immigrants who came and then were allowed to stay, or asylum seekers. Germany prefers the Indians who come on the legal route. That is why you see how quickly Germany signed a mobility agreement with India. And the number of Indian students has gone from 5,000 in my time to over 50,000 now. And most of them are promised employment in Germany. So these people are legal migrants and they can work in Germany. And but the question here is about demographic change. To the common German, the migrant is a problem, political problem, economic problem, takes away his welfare money, reduces his housing, all that is very clear. And then culturally different. So, in that, the common German, especially in East Germany, does not distinguish between legal and illegal migrant because they don't know. They just dislike migrants. So I often say that while a lot of Indians are going, we need to have cultural adjustments and not become ghettoized, but link with Germans in your workplace, in your study place, so that your culture is understood and assimilated. Without that, this demographic change can be a time bomb.
Right. Your analysis and presentation about Germany is so commendable. Maybe Germans don't know about them as much you know about them. Thank you for explaining. Yeah, it's
Thank
possible because diya tale andheri wali baat hai. They probably don't know where they are, and that's my view. They Germans seem to be a little lost in their own in their own, call it hubris, or you call in their own confusion? I'd like your views on that, sir. Do you think they'll ever come out of it?
I think they are trying. These articles that I wrote, these two articles, I
Sir.
sent them to all German friends, and some of them who read it replied, said that, you understand it better than us. That's what they
Yeah,
also say.
definitely. Yeah,
But
yeah.
that is how I am taking a macro outside view. When you are living over there, you don't see it like this. That is the
Yeah,
difference. And
right.
somebody
Uh,
talked about German think tanks, but German think tanks also have narrow views.
yeah, because they don't have a strategic outlook, and their
Yes.
strategic outlook is confined into European Union and NATO, and US has overshadowed their thinking. So that's only natural that they don't have.
Don't understand the global south.
And I mean, like this, he says, does Germany have the guts to launch an inquiry into who sabotaged Nord Stream 2? Does Germany have that spine? It is part of building of that spine. You know that it takes time to build up spine. That's the way I look at it.
And Nord Stream
Uh,
is still there. Nord Stream 1 is not destroyed, it just closed. But I don't think politically the Russian gas is coming back in a hurry. And the American shale gas and shale oil is coming in, for which new installations have been created in Germany. So we have to realize that this is politics in command. This is not geoeconomics.
yeah. Thank you, Ambassador and General. Very detailed thoughts will require several views to internalize. Yeah, I agree with you. Look, like I said, we have to, as India grows up the value chain, you have to think differently. You can't keep only thinking only of Pakistan and China and Bangladesh and be in the same internal triangle. And our international view cannot say that it stops at USA and starts and finishes at USA and what it does. We have to start thinking big. We have to get into unexplored corners, and that is why I chose this. Right.
Thank you,
Um.
General
Yeah.
Shankar, for giving me the space to discuss Germany. Thanks to you, I actually get to talk about the nooks and crannies of Indian foreign policy, on which the spotlight is often not there because we are obsessed with the United States, China, and Pakistan. But the world is a big place, and we must grasp our opportunities where we can find them. Thank you
Yeah.
so
It's
much.
not. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot for your time, and I'd like to thank everyone. And I'd like to thank Shanmuganathan for joining me as a member. Uh, I found a lot of good questions. We'll not take it on because the ambassador has to leave. I think his uh, better half is about to embark on a journey, and he has to go and see her off. So we'll stop here. We'll join back tomorrow morning. We'll join back and take on the Israel-Iran spat and see what's happening there. So thanks once again. Jai Hind to
Sir,
you and Jai Hind to all viewers.
good night.